Do you consider yourself rich, poor, somewhere in between? What about future you? Do you think that one day you'll be rich? A lot of people do. 66% of millennials said in a 2019 poll that they thought someday they'd be rich, but here's the truth. You'll probably never be rich. Before we get to why, let's back up for a second, because what does being rich really even mean? Is it having $100,000, $1 million? You've probably heard someone say before that their goal was to have a $100,000 salary, or maybe that's even your goal. But why? What will that specific number do for you? Is it because you think $100,000 equals rich? The exact threshold is going to be different depending on who you are and what your specific financial experiences have been, but overall, across the board, there is a difference between being truly rich and appearing to be rich. To us, real wealth means that you can afford your lifestyle, you aren't stressed about having enough money to live comfortably, and you probably have a ready-to-go retirement account too. But looking rich means that you have a lot of expenses, and maybe you're even making a lot of money, but you're spending more than the money you have coming in. Now that's a whole other topic, but today what we're focusing on is that you'll probably never be really rich. Why not? Because you're molded to be broke, and it's a cycle that's hard to get out of. Now, we don't really like the saying conditioned to be poor because we, the societal we, tend to have a really skewed perception of what poor is. The actual definition is lacking sufficient money to live at a standard considered comfortable or normal in society, aka not having enough income for a person's basic needs. A lot of people are trapped in that cycle that's stopping them from moving ahead, getting to that next class, or becoming rich. They might even be constantly broke, but that's different than being poor. So let's start with our money mindset. Like I said before, a lot of people think they'll be rich someday, or even if you don't think so, you probably still want to be rich. But what's the actual plan? Well, if we look at what we learn in school and just general society, the consistent message is that you gotta find something you're good at, go to school for it, get a job, work hard so you can buy a house and a car and maybe have a family, and then eventually retire. And along the way, if you're one of the ones who work really hard at all of those steps, then you'll be one of the rich ones. But that's just not true.
When you're in this cycle that we're all taught of school, job, house, and then retirement, realistically, you're just happy that you're not worse off. I mean, it's what a lot of people are striving for, being able to get to that place of financial stability. It's the ability to have an education, to live comfortably at home, to have a job you can wake up to every morning. And don't get me wrong, all that is great in a lot of ways. The problem here is the lie. It says that getting to that point, now that you're there, all you have to do is work hard enough and maybe you'll be rich one day. Well, guess what? It's not true. If you live in real life, you know that there's bound to be obstacles in your way. I'm picturing it like doing a driving test the only way you know how. You're dodging pylons, and every time you dodge them, you think you're doing really well. And I mean, sure, there's no crash, but you're just going around in a little circle when there's another way to do it. For example, there's the people that know the trick of going to a smaller town and doing your test there where there's less people, less cars, or even hiring someone to show you the route beforehand. It's like thinking that doing 1,000 laps of hard work is somehow going to equal bigger results, when really you could do less laps, find another way to do the test, work smarter, and find easier success. So what are these obstacles that are keeping you in this cycle and also keeping you from being rich? Well, one is that we're taught to live above our means. You know, I say this to Steph all the time, but it's true. We're in the overconsumption era where there's always more to have and always more to buy. We've talked about lifestyle creep so many times on the channel, and it's one of those things where even people hearing it right now might roll their eyes, but it's one of the worst things that you can do to yourself when it comes to actually wanting to grow wealth. I mean, think about it. If whenever you make more money, you spend more, you might have more things, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna have more money in your pocket. The person that makes $80,000 a year but keeps $50,000 is far better off than the person that's making $150 but only keeping $20. I mean, the second person might even look like they have more. It might translate to them having a bigger house, a fancier car, fancy dinners, designer clothes, vacations, you name it. But they're also not contributing to their future to the same degree as the first person. And here's the thing, if you're living above your means now and you're still a worker, meaning you have to actively work for your income, you know, going to work for 40 plus hours a week to get that paycheck, and if you were to quit or get fired, the money tree would essentially stop flowing, then guess what? If that's you, then you won't be able to keep up with your lifestyle when you actually stop working. You'll have some money to retire, yes, but your lifestyle will have to change dramatically or you'll be living in debt.
Another obstacle that we talk about all the time is that people are taught to be savings focused instead of investment focused. We hear the phrase all the time, and people are always saying that you gotta save your money, but really you need to invest your money for it to grow and accumulate any real wealth. But the problem is that we're not taught this in a lot of schools, at least most people aren't taught this in schools from a young age, and if your parents don't know about it either, then how are you supposed to know? Then because we don't know a lot about it, when you do finally start hearing that you need to be investing, people are thinking, but how do I do that? Obviously there is another step involved. When it comes to saving, it's a little more intuitive, and we hear it all the time. You just don't touch your money and put it in a different account. But investing is that another step, and people are afraid that maybe they'll make a mistake, so they just don't even want to worry about it. Maybe people are saying, and maybe this has been you, that you'll worry about money once you have more money instead of now. Or maybe you just shove it in the back of your mind in general. In any of those cases, you definitely aren't getting any wealthier. You've basically decided, without maybe even realizing it, that actively earning your income and working really hard will somehow make you richer, when really you could have your money working for you. And at that point, you probably didn't know any better. Now let's take a look at why we don't learn about these things in schools, because I'm sure most of us can agree that we definitely should be. But the thing is that schools are still designed to create the exact same type of person, someone that's ready to work for someone else instead of themselves. Now, if you look at the history of the education system, something that you really can't miss if you're looking into it is that education was originally designed and only given access to the elite. And now better education still is, which is a whole other topic I could definitely talk a lot about. But if we're sticking with today's topic, schools were originally created for the elite, and then when the industrialization era started, a lot more people were needed to work in factories. Schools then became more widespread, and they were designed to create workers that would do exactly what was told of them. Now, the unfortunate thing is that nothing has really changed or advanced since then. We're still taught the same basic path. Here are some subjects, find one that you're good at, go to school for it, get a job, and make a steady paycheck. But what we're not taught is how to actually own those companies, come up with innovative ideas, and how to make passive income. On top of what we aren't taught when it comes to money, something that people are always still saying is that we should still be striving to become really rich. Now, other than winning the lottery or getting really lucky, which doesn't happen very often and is not something we should be in the habit of doing or banking on, the ways to make that happen is through ownership or passive income. Now that's true. The person who owns the company that you work a 9-to-5 for, they're the ones who are really making money. Or for people who start their own business, even if it's on the smaller side, they can make hundreds of thousands of dollars more in income. They can then invest that money, diversify their income streams, and build and ultimately become rich that way too. And if you're someone who does want to become an entrepreneur, whether that means you have a full-time job and you sell real estate on the side, maybe you have multiple side hustles that all have their own income stream, or maybe just from your one income source you really focus on maximizing your investments, all of that is great because it is going to be a way to grow your net worth. But ultimately, not everyone's going to become an entrepreneur, even if they know that path exists. So if you're someone who doesn't want to go down that path, then what? Are you going to never be rich?
Well, yeah, maybe, in the sense of the uber rich who grow their net worths exponentially, but there's an in-between. Trust me, there's a way to not feel trapped in the cycle of making money to spend money where you're consistently feeling broke and just stressed out about it, even if you're surrounded by stuff. But the reason it's interesting is because when you have nothing, when you're actually poor, this cycle that we've been talking about doesn't even exist. I know for a lot of families, including mine at one point, and for a lot of people out there, life just consists of working to get by out of necessity. The thing is, once these families and these people are in a place physically and mentally where they have the capacity to think about abundance or potentially some sort of American dream, they now enter the cycle. Anyways, to bring it back a bit, it's by changing your mindset around money that's actually going to help you. It's by understanding what enough is and what enough means to you. Then what you have to do, and this is probably one of the most important ones, is take that money that you're keeping for future you and actually invest it. Then after that, just make it a point to yourself or make it one of your goals to learn more about money and stop being afraid of it. It's when we don't know or aren't feeling as confident in our financial knowledge that we do things like not investing at all because we think we're gonna mess it up. You know, not understanding how to leverage good debt and not looking into what our actual risk profile is. Or even worse, it's when we think that there's some sort of secret that these people with money have that we just don't know. Unless you were born into money, there really isn't some sort of big secret apart from breaking out of that broke mindset cycle. Now, so far we've mentioned two different ways that can potentially make you rich. On one hand, we've mentioned all the passive income sources, so maxing out your investments in the stock market, real estate, all of that. On the other hand, we've mentioned ownership, so potentially starting your own business. Now, typically what happens is that as the business continues to grow, you have all your owners at the top and they're the ones that are gonna get rich. And then you have all your employees below them who are actually helping drive the business. But remember, they're active earners, so they're never really gonna get rich, right? And listen, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just a fact in this cycle. Now, on the flip side of all of this, we all know that a lot of businesses, especially nowadays, sell a lot of products and push a lot of products to consumers. So if you really think about it, on one hand, you're an owner who's making money off of people consuming your product, right? And on the other hand, you have all these employees that work under you that earn an active income and will basically never be rich, right? But they're also probably consuming your products, if not other products, basically feeding into this whole cycle of consume, consume, consume. So what's next?
So is it our fault that we're always consuming and needing more and more things? I'd say yes and no. No, because it's literally what our society does, whether it's marketing, influencers, companies just constantly pushing you to buy more and more things so that they can make a profit from it. And if it's not the companies and the marketing and the influencers, then maybe it's our peers and our friends and the people you're surrounded by that are doing the same thing, so you're just trying to keep up. On the other hand, yes, it is partially our fault, because if you're aware of the consuming cycle that you're in, like you are right now if you're watching this video, then it is on you to actively pull yourself out of it. Now, there are a ton of systemic issues that need to be changed in order to tackle the factors working against people, but on the other hand, what can you do personally in the meantime to help yourself? Now, a question that I get asked a lot is how to stop impulse shopping and spending all of your money. It's something that I definitely do sometimes, but my main tip is to have a strong understanding of your money goals and always refer back to that bigger picture. Also, this makes me think of the classic quote of you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time around. I find this to be really true about just what you're consuming and listening to all the time as well. I used to be constantly listening to YouTube videos that are from like lifestyle content creators, and I still do have my favorites that I listen to too, big YouTube watcher myself, but I also try and balance that out by constantly consuming things about money and business and finance and tech and all of that instead too, whether that's listening to YouTube channels like ours. It helps for me doing research for these videos, business newsletters that we've shared before in the past, and all of that to have a good balance of things that you're filling your head with subconsciously. Overall, I think one of the biggest barriers are that people are afraid of even thinking about money, like literally even letting their brain think about it for a minute. And I totally understand that. I've told the story before about how I cried getting my first credit card. I used to hate going into the bank, still don't love it, and I like that you can do more online banking now. It's great. But at the same time, all of that was really out of a lack of money and financial confidence. Everyone's stories and experiences from the past when it comes to money is gonna be a little bit different, but a lot of people are really delaying thinking or learning about money. And you probably know someone, maybe it's you and I'm calling you out right now in this video, that says they're not into all that money stuff, but it's around you every single day. You work hard most days of the week to actually make money, so whether you say you like it or you're into it or not, it's impacting you constantly. So wouldn't you rather be in control?
The ultimate key to everything we've said is that if you don't change your mindset around money, then you'll stay in that broke mindset. If you're someone who wants to be really rich, then you're likely gonna have to become a business owner or really amplify your passive income sources. So whether that be the stock market or even real estate, for example's sake. The other point is that you don't have to be really rich. You can realize that you're not gonna be rich like you probably pictured it in your mind, and just set yourself up to not feel like you're broke and just stressed all the time instead. Anyways, we hope that you guys like this video and some of our thoughts on the topic. As usual, you know we want to hear what you guys have to say down in the comment box below, so yeah, leave us a comment. If you haven't already shown us some love down below with a like, make sure you'll hit that like button, helps out the channel, you know the vibes. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe right there in the corner. If you haven't seen any of our previous videos, like the middle class video or the retirement is a thing of the past, I think they're straight bangers, so make sure you check them out next door. We will be back, you know the vibes, let's go.